Power on.
Welcome to the boss's office. The boss is in. You better knock on that door because you're not getting in without an appointment. And of course, I am the boss, Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Welcome to my show. And what is this show? Well, I don't know. We just started it, so we'll see what it becomes. Brian is here with me. Hi, Brian.
Hi. Yeah. Boy, this is exciting. The boss's office.
You had an appointment, so you got in.
Absolutely. I am fully ready. I'm at the desk. I'm good to go.
You're underneath the desk.
I would be. Oh, you better believe it.
I'm crossing and uncrossing my legs in my pencil skirt. Very professional.
It's all Sharon Stone of you. Jeez. Little basic instinct.
Well,
anyway.
Now speaking of sexy fantasy scenarios, we wanted to do a show because you have just released a book. And you didn't tell anyone you were going to. I knew about it, but I was sworn to secrecy. This was one of the what do you call it? A company secret, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This was a corporate, secret. And, this book was in the works for a while. Oh, trade secret. Thank you. That was the word I was trying to think. What would I do without you, Brian? My loyal employee, my loyal secretary.
You are the boss.
Years.
I will say it. So wait a minute. Wait, are you interviewing me?
I am interviewing you. Yes, of course
awesome.
I am.
All right. Yes,
of course I'm on top. And I'm interviewing you about your book. So now you didn't tell anyone that this book was dropping, but I knew about it. It was in the works for quite a while, and. Well, I mean, you may have actually, the audience, may have actually already read a lot of Brian's book because the book is short stories of the Sovryn Universe, right?
Yeah, the Sovryn Universe, Volume 1. That's the official title of it.
Volume 1, implying that there might be more volumes to come. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely going to be, I can say that Volume 2 is probably going to be, I'll let this cat out of the bag right out of the gate. How many other phrases can I use? But the second one will probably be like novelizations or short storyizations of my video games and of the actual audio theater that I do, which I did a special re-release of the audio theater where it was 6 hours long. Now, I'm going to give you a little inside information here on this. Okay. I wanted this available to where in the book, in Sovryn Universe, Volume 1, there'd be a link in there where you could hear the entirety of the Sovryn Universe as far as the audio theater goes. That way, these stories, I think you can get the picture with what's there, but so that they can make a whole ton more sense and you know what voices sound like and all this different stuff, right? I wanted to do, I wanted that available. And so I had to put it available publicly, not on Patreon. I had to put it on the Prime Sovryn Tech feed on SoundCloud. And I think I broke the RSS feed because I have not been able, I released an episode of Sovryn Tech last Saturday, but it never posted to the feed because on that same day I released the 6 hours of the Sovryn Audio Theater. And
Brian, you broke the internet.
I might have broken the internet.
Kim Kardashian and her butt. You broke the internet.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm going to have to try and repost the episode. I don't know if there's some hours limit. I tried to get an answer to that. There's a size limit, but I was under the size limit, so I don't know what the hell happened.
Okay, well, let's finish actually describing what the book is first, because you kind of interrupted me there.
I'm sorry. You are
no
interviewing
interrupting
me.
The boss, okay?
I'm the boss.
So Brian has released the Sovryn Universe Volume 1, and it contains short stories from the characters that he's developed over the Sovryn Universe.
Yes.
Over the 6 years that he's been doing the show, 6 years plus. And not only that, but a lot of these stories have been released in the Sovryn Tech newsletter, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've been a reader of the newsletters, you may have read a lot of these stories. That's what I was starting to say before.
Yeah.
However, there's also new content in the book that you can't get in the newsletters.
And you'll never get them. Yeah.
And you'll never get it until you buy the book. So
Right.
you're going to have to buy the book. And there's also, some other goodies, like I wrote a foreword for the book.
Yes. Your name is right on the cover of the book. Forward by Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Absolutely.
Yep. And Brian wrote an intro. And then there's bonus content in the book as well. There's bonus stories in there. And also you release this audio of the sort of the background leading up to what happens in the stories in the book.
Right.
Right. And now, I wouldn't even blame you. Like, Brian has an epic newsletter. I mean, he includes articles, videos, blurbs that he writes, blurbs that other people write. I'm going to have the boss's corner in the newsletter.
Yes.
And then at the very end, at the leading up, it's all teasing and leading up to the story at the end. There's original short fiction in the newsletter. But sometimes it's like you get distracted by the other things in the newsletter and you don't even necessarily make it there.
Right.
Or you might forget or something like that. So you may not have actually read all of these stories, but now you can read them all conveniently in one little place in the book.
Yeah. And I will say also, I mean, there's what would equate to deleted scenes. These are, or what in like Star Wars terms, because that's a popular thing with Star Wars movie novelizations now, is they do expanded editions. These are expanded editions of all of these stories. So you're really reading them again for the first time. Whether, again, if you read them before, you're reading them in a whole new light. And there are 2 extra new stories. One of them is quite long, one of the longest I've ever written. Which is
it's
at the
a good
end.
one too. I really like.
Yeah,
that story.
it's called A Night or One Night in Unimatrix Zero.
Knight.
Yeah, Knight, and you got to find out what that's all about. But that story was a lot of fun to do, and also there's a nice intro story that opens up with you doing something that opens up with Dr. Stephanie Murphy, not necessarily you doing
Don't
something very
confuse
interesting.
the character with the woman.
Right. Yes.
Because it is a character, and this is all fantasy, so,
Yeah. So,
don't
I mean,
any ideas, pervs.
Yeah. But maybe that's something you want to ask about. I mean, because I think it's one of the unique aspects of the Sovryn Universe is that it walks a very weird line of fiction and nonfiction, where there are like the character of Agent Brian Sovryn obviously has my name, has my look, has all this and that. The character Dr. Stephanie Murphy, same deal. There's a lot of, and you even say it in your foreword. I mean, people still need to read your foreword, but you even say it in the foreword where some of this stuff is based on real life in ways, and we'll never say which parts are what. But some of it is, and there it is a weird mixture because Sovryn Tech, my podcast itself, is a nonfiction show. But yeah, I don't know. I love being able to have my own little fantasy land.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can do things with fiction that you just can't do otherwise, and you can explore ideas that you wouldn't be able to in nonfiction.
Yeah, and I love doing the audio theater, the audio fiction, right? And there will be an audiobook version of this to come out eventually, as well as it'll also be available on paperback for people that are wondering. Because right now it's just an ebook. There's advantages to that I'd be happy to talk about. But there's things you can't do in audio that you can only do on the printed page, the quote unquote printed page. And so that's been fun to explore aspects of the Sovryn Universe in text, which is kind of a newer thing for me. I mean, I've always wanted to be an author. Forever. In fact, I talked about it years ago on my show, Sovryn Tech. Why did I get into writing in the first place? It was, why did I get into technology? I'm sorry. Why did I get into computers? It's because I wanted to write at a very young age. I've always been writing. So, that's why I wanted a computer, because it's like, oh, computer, unlimited paper. I just open up a word processor and holy shit, this can go on forever and I can just keep typing, and I would, believe me. So anyway.
Did getting this book out have anything to do with the passing of your mentor, Harlan Ellison, recently?
Yeah. So, thanks for asking that. So I mentioned it a bit in the introduction so Harlan Ellison, greatest author of all time. I don't think that's opinion. I think that's fact. But whatever, I'll say it's in my opinion. He's best known for his short stories. And I have patterned so much of my life and platitudes around Harlan Ellison. I've always wanted to be an author. like I was just saying. And he inspired me to want to be one even more so. And, to do a bunch of short stories, yeah, that's very much following in his footsteps. And to finally release a book about it, well, for one, it gave me the opportunity to do an introduction that could mention Harlan Ellison, because I don't think a day should go by where his name isn't spoken by someone. So I was honored to be able to do that. And this is definitely, on the dedication page of the book, he's the top name. You're the last name. It says, and to my love, Dr. Stephanie Murphy. But
I liked that bit.
Yeah. But, at the very top is Harlan Ellison. So yeah, this was definitely inspired and put together, not quickly, because I think it was very well done, by all involved.
No, you spent a lot of time working on this, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that inspired it. When he died in June, I was like, okay, I need to do something to commemorate him. And, what's the old saying that, imitation is, the sincerest form of flattery. I imitated, and no problem, because I know I'll never duplicate. I can imitate, but I'll never duplicate him. But I'll try.
So how do you get the ideas for these stories? Where do they come from?
Where'd
you come up with the characters? How did you get the plot lines going? Tell us about that.
Sure. So there's an old saying in writing that you can only write about what you've experienced. Now, I think it's not until I started writing for the Sovryn Tech newsletter, started writing all this short fiction, that I really understood what that meant. Because I think people think about it in the wrong way. I know I was thinking about it in the wrong way. And I think most people actually think about it in the wrong way, because they think that means, well, if I want to write a story in Dubai, I need to go to Dubai. No, that's not what that means. What it actually, I think, means is that you can only write about what you're going through inside. And it's not that that's what you can only write about. It's the thing that easily goes from brain to page, from brain to words on paper. And that's it. Like a lot of, and again, I'm not going to say which parts, could be based upon real life and which aren't, but a lot of that really is based off of stuff that's going on for me. And in my head, what I'm feeling, or, even at points that have happened in my life. So my writing process, like, that makes it very easy. And basing the characters off of, like, people that have been on Sovryn Tech in the past and so on, it gives me a nice, when you're doing short stories, you can't really spend a ton of time on description, or at least you shouldn't. So that gives me very nice visual shorthand when I kind of use that, those kinds of those kinds of visual aids, shall we say. And I think a lot of people, might use that in their own heads. I don't know, but you can make these characters more. I mean, I do some description.
Well, the irony is a lot of people haven't even seen, they might have heard voices, but they've never even seen what the people look like.
Yeah. I mean, that might be true, but in our social media age, I think there's, anyway, I'm not going to say who's based on what and whatever, but regardless of that, I have a lot of real life aids that allow these stories to come to life on the page, and it makes it a lot easier for me to write them. I think
but
some people.
What about the story? Like, what about the plot? Where does that come from?
Some of the plots come from real life stuff, but other parts of the plot, and I admit this right in the introduction. I made a huge side note. Sometimes I outright steal. And like I borrow from I steal from other universes, like Unimatrix Zero, that's from Star Trek Voyager. Red Wolf, that's from Airwolf, and I'll take from all these different things. And then, this is what Star Wars did. Star Wars took all, Kurosawa, Ben-Hur, took all these different ideas and just ended up slapping them into one universe, and that's very much what I've done. Straczynski did that with Babylon 5. And so I'll take some similar plot lines here and there. But the funny thing is I almost hate to admit this. There's two things. Really, these stories only consist of two. They don't run like traditional stories. They have two main points. And this is the part that I hate to admit, is that I think I kind of write like Ayn Rand. I'm not saying I have her skill. I'm saying I write in maybe similar reasons that she does. She loves to write sex. and she loves to write ideology. And that's the thing, is that a lot of the science fiction aspects of what happens in these stories are really based on, are like metaphorical ways of expressing my own ideologies. And science fiction has always done that. Like, science fiction has been used for that over and over and over again, from Star Trek to take your pick. I mean, hell, even Atlas Shrugged really is science fiction. So, yeah, I mean, the main points of any story is really to serve, honestly, the sex scenes. As where usually sex in Hollywood, it's the other way around. The sex scene is just to try and hook people in to engage with the story. Mine's kind of the opposite. You're here for the sex scenes, and they're like the primary thing. But then the other thing that's part of it is the ideology itself, like the ideas, not so much the plots. Like, the plot is completely secondary in these.
Well, it is sci-fi erotica, so
yeah, right. So I mean, it makes sense, and that's okay. Go ahead.
So tell me what your process is like when you sit down to write a story. Or do you sit? Maybe I'm taking that for granted. Maybe you stand or run or something. What is it like when you're writing a story? Okay, so I don't know if I said this earlier, but I was going to say it, I know. Was that I think people would be shocked just how quickly I write some of these. I mean, like, I can do it very fast. But again, I have visual aids and like mental experiences and what's going on inside me that I can just type out very quickly. So I am generally sitting down. I do love the idea of a standing desk. I haven't taken advantage of that in a while. I used to only be on a standing desk. I used to do Sovryn Tech every week standing up for 2 hours straight. but yeah, I'm usually sitting down when I write it. I'm not using any kind of distraction-free software or anything like that. But I will use a ton of different kinds of software to write these stories. It really depends where it needs to be. If it's something I need to share with someone, honestly, it's getting done in Google Docs. If it's something that I need to format heavy in special ways, it might be getting done in Microsoft Word, or I might just be writing it in Notepad, which is my favorite way to write. So yeah, that's what it ends up looking like. But I'll end up writing one of these things. Like, a really long one could take me 3, 4, maybe 5 hours tops. But some of the shorter ones, 20 minutes. Like, especially if I really know what has to happen in it to get to make the point that I want to make. I can write it very, very quickly. And I type fast too, but I mean, I write it very quickly when I have it in my head where this needs to go. But sometimes when I'm writing, there's the idea that you're either a pantser or a planner. What is a pantser? Okay,
so a planner obviously sounds like it's exactly what it is. A person that outlines and makes very specific plans for what they're doing. A pantser is somebody that just writes by the seat of their pants. Like, you fly by the seat of your pants. You're just like, okay, we'll see where the story takes me.
They have no plan. They're just writing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am very much more, I'm not 100% a pantser, but I'm very much more a pantser. And it's amazing.
You're more a pantser than a planner, right?
Yes, I'm more a pantser than a planner, because it's amazing what will happen. There are connections that will unconsciously happen within stories that I stop and I reread the story and I go, holy shit, I'm brilliant. But it's really not me. I mean, it's an unconscious me. So I don't actually want to call myself brilliant, because it's my unconscious that's putting all these threads together. And that'll happen a lot, and I'm always pleased with the results when it happens. So, but if I know kind of the basic gist of what needs to happen, I will and I'll usually do that at the top of the page. I'll put the 5, 6 things that need to happen within the story, and I got to hit those notes. But that's generally all that I run off of. But sometimes I have a much better idea of what I want to write. And when I have that, I can write it in very short order. But if I'm being more of a pantser, there's points where I have to stop and think, and it'll take longer.
Okay. Well, I'm sure folks are dying to read these stories. So if you want to get the book, how do you do that? So
I'll put a link in the show notes for that. You can go.
I hope it's the first thing in the show notes, because we took a little while to get to it.
Yeah. The book. Right. So the link is in the show notes for that. You can just go to Amazon and just type in Sovryn Universe, Sovryn, and that'll take you there. Or, you might be able to use some other links like stuff.sexandsciencehour.com, and then type in Sovryn Universe and get your hookup. But there'll be a link in the show notes that might use that anyway. And the other, you can go to my website, zog.email, where you can also sign up for the newsletter, where you can get more of these stories as they get released, and continuations of all this different stuff. Because I mean, there's so many stories to tell. There's plenty more to tell as far as this goes.
But if you want the bonus content,
right,
it's only available in the book.
That's
right.
You
got to get the Sovryn Universe.
Yeah, but you can get it at zog.email as well.
Okay, well, lots of different options to get your book. Thank you so much. How much does it cost, by the way?
It's $2.99. So
$2.99. What a bargain.
Yeah, and
that's a deal.
I will say it's only available right now. It's only an ebook, but that's real quick. The advantage of ebooks is that I can update them, and that's a disadvantage as well, because you can kind of rewrite history in a way, if you think about it. But I like the fact that I can upload like a new version of the manuscript when I need to, and then that comes out, and that's part of the reason I was holding on the paperback as well, so that once I know the digital version looks just right. And sometimes you get an email from somebody that says, oh, there's this, and or maybe I find something that I want to fix, or I don't like the presentation as I test it out on various screens and everything, which sometimes you can really only do when it's live, There's a real advantage to that with ebooks, is that the artist can continue to perfect his book.
Oh,
so
sure.
make sure you're downloading like the latest version, which the one that's up now I think is pretty much the done deal. But I don't know of any other changes I could possibly make to it right now. But like in the first day I re-uploaded it like 4 times. I was like, oh shit, I missed it. Oh, I did this, And anyway, so yeah. But there you go. Link is in the show notes for it. It's only $2.99. Sovryn Universe Volume 1. You got to get it.
You got to get it, folks. You definitely have to read it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been the Boss's Corner. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now back to your regularly scheduled Sovryn Tech. Woo!